Qureshi, good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to your office here. It's very nice to see you again. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for visiting us.
No worries.
Yeah.
It's only down the road, and it's somewhere I've frequented a number of times. Brick Lane. We're here today to talk about your funeral service, your experiences over the last 3 years with COVID, and also your life here in East London. So perhaps if I could start with just getting an experience of how long you've been in the area, and how long your funeral service has been running.
Right. I've been in this area since 1991, so this is my 32nd year. It's quite a long time. And we have started this funeral service about 9 years back from this mosque.
And if you don't mind me asking, what inspired that decision to start the service?
Well, as you know, that Brick Lane Mosque is a very historic mosque, and it's been center of Bangladeshi community and Muslim community for a number of years, since 1975. And there was always a need for funeral service here, a bereavement service. And although there was not a funeral service from this mosque, but we have been provided bereavement support since the inception of this mosque. And for Muslim community, only one option was from funeral service at East London Mosque. So we thought that we should set up something so that people can have choice, Muslim community. And some of you may be aware that our religious obligation is we need to bury our deceased as soon as possible. So that was the intention, that to give people choice and options so that we can perform the last journey of our loved one without any interference or without any delay.
Yeah. And for those that aren't familiar with Muslim faith, perhaps just some detail on the time requirements, just because some people may not be aware, but and why it's important to have something, again, another option for people in East London and not just something quite far away. So if you just go into the detail of what the process is.
Our religious obligation is, as soon as someone dies, we need to carry out funeral and burial. So the same goes with the Jewish community as well. So, I mean, there are many different circumstances. Someone can die at home, at hospital, at care home, at hospice, and different places. So we try to carry out our service soon as we can. That's why we're open 24/7. We're accessible 24/7. My colleague and I, we pick up call any time of the day or night. And if someone dies at home middle of the night, we have got a team of volunteers and our staff will go out and provide the service, so that the family do not feel that they are, alone and they are not able to provide the last bit of, service they're supposed to provide to their loved ones.
Yeah. Given your availability to the brothers and sisters in the area, you must be a real pillar of community. You must see a lot. Has that been your experience over the last 9 years?
Well, definitely. I mean, our service is known throughout the country because another service we provide is repatriation. So even now, at least 30% of our community people, they send their loved ones back home. So like country like Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, and African countries, Turkey. There are many Muslim countries. So we provide this service. So for this service, we cover whole UK. Even we, receive human remains from Shetland Island.
Wow. And when we were speaking one time, you mentioned Manchester, but I didn't know it goes even further than that. Shetland Islands. Wow. Far. Yeah. Amazing. We were also speaking once about your experiences during COVID, and obviously you must have seen a lot. You must have been exposed to a lot. It's quite a heavy subject. So I'm not quite sure where to start. But what was your earliest experience of the pandemic and the staggering number of deaths we saw amongst our community, amongst our brothers and sisters.
It was absolutely painful, as I talked before. I mean, when COVID started in March 2020, about 1 month earlier, in January, end of December, we came to know that there is a pandemic coming. It's very fearful. So our local media, Bangladeshi media, they came and they asked me what we are going to do if anything happens in UK to our community. And like we always say, that we are here for the community. We will do whatever needs to be done to provide the service to our loved ones, without any, with full dignity and care. And luckily we managed to do that, but it was really hard because the rules was continuously changing from beginning of the day to end of the day, new rules coming up from, NHS. And there was a fear of unknown. At the beginning, so far I can remember, it was really painful that even the loved ones, the family members, like children of a deceased, brother of a deceased, some family, they didn't come to the funeral. There was a rule of 6, you remember. They didn't come in fear of getting infected by themselves. But myself and my team, my colleagues, we said no. We will provide the service, and we did. So what we did when we carry out preparing the bodies, washing and everything, we used to take small video clip and send to the family members so that they can see for the last time, before we carry out the burial and funeral. And another most sad thing is, there was a backlog of, funeral. Like our obligation is as soon as possible, but at the peak, it was 10 days, 2 weeks waiting. So we used to, take the note, put the serial number, and we used to carry out the service one after another.
Wow.
At the peak, it used to be 8-10 burial a day.
Wow.
For our small service, it was really tough. And another challenge we faced that, many of our volunteers and staff, they, they stepped back for their personal reason. Some of them maybe in fear.
Step back from
providing the service, coming to join us, yeah. And the biggest challenge was our main funeral service, from Eastern Mosque, they were closed. They closed down for 3 months for the first wave.
Wow.
So all the Muslim funeral pressure from this part of London, we covered the greater London. A bigger portion came to us. And, we have got a small team. But luckily, myself and my colleague Shokot Bhai and our family members, we encouraged them to come and carry out the service what we have been doing, yes.
Was that, a lot of that must have been tough, but particularly from people's, interpretation of the burial rites, Allah's calling of how we should look after our dead. Was it difficult to see different people's reactions to that and having to reconcile their faith with what kind of government is telling them?
It was very confusing. I think, from the very outset, they said that if you can, wash and prepare the body, wearing the proper PPEs, personal protective equipment. And at the beginning, we did not know what the PPEs are, exactly what it means and how effective we have to protect ourselves. And at the first wave, myself and my colleague, he got infected from the first case we carried out. He was hospitalized for a week at UCL and he was struggling. So we suffered our bit as well. I was infected as well.
Wow.
So we had to close down for 10 days.
Okay.
And then restarted again as soon as we get better.
And so, what compelled you, given the fear of the unknown, and you've been infected now, so you know it's kind of real, and your proximity towards your service enhances your risk. What drove you still to say, I must do this for the families, for the community, for East Londoners and people outside that are requiring this?
It's the intention to serve the community and serve the humanity. That was the key thing. It's like even when my colleague Shokot Bhai was in hospital, I was ill at home. We couldn't talk. The cough was really harsh and really tough at the first wave. Those people suffered. They know exactly what I'm talking about. It was really cruel. But we were receiving call continuously. So we directed towards right to the graveyard, the gardens office, they were open. They had a bigger team. So one team got infected. They replaced with another team. They came. So they were the biggest support stream for Muslim community burial. So we diverted all the call. We said and wait for us to get better, a little bit better and open. But as soon as we felt that we are able to walk, we just jumped in and we said,
Wow.
no, we need to start again. And as a result of that, the waiting list gone even higher, because we were closed.
Because people knew that you were, the backlog.
Backlog started even building up, we didn't have any choice. But as you said, sense of compassion, sense of urgency, to serve the humanity, that driven us
That's
to carry
amazing.
out providing the service.
That's
what
amazing.
we did. Yeah.
You spoke earlier about perhaps confusing messages. It's a confusing time. Health leaders, the technical people may have not known exactly what the disease was. But could you just speak a little bit about the confusion of messages from authorities on what you should be doing? How did that make you feel? How was it managing the kind of difference of communication of perhaps opinions?
The most challenging one, because our main job was to collect the bodies from hospitals and bring them here or take them to the graveyard, wash them, shroud them, and burial. It's very simple and a very short prayer. And at that time, Muslim community and Jewish community has provided a great service to NHS as well, because there was no place to even keep the bodies as it was coming down stream. The storage facility wasn't there, so they opened makeshift, mortuaries and stuff. So we were actually bringing the deceased continuously, from 6 o'clock in the morning till the end of the day. But even two hospitals has got two different messages. There was not a consistent message that how we should maintain our, personal well-being, safeguard ourselves and everything. And even some hospital, one type of body bags. Another hospital, there is no body bag. So you are in fear, because there was a lot of unknown whether we are protecting ourselves properly or not, or our colleagues, Because I can take risk for myself, but I cannot take risk for someone very young coming to volunteer to serve, this. So it was very inconsistent message from NHS. That was the biggest problem, biggest trouble, and I had a lot of. I raised one case with Stephen Timms for
MP for West Ham.
East
Ham.
I'm not mentioning the hospital with one of the hospital, and he has written to the trust, and this kind of thing has confused us, and added to the pressure we were in at that time.
What would you say to someone who would say that it's a pandemic? Maybe the trust, the system, the state wasn't that prepared for that instance, and so it's perhaps permissible that there was some confusion. What would you say to that? Would you say that that's accurate to a degree, or actually maybe there should have been greater consideration for cultural factors, for example, or what would you say to that kind of thought process?
Well, I think cultural factor definitely. At that time, it helped the NHS because, as you know, that other communities, except for Muslim and Jewish community, there is no urgency of carrying out funeral and burial. But because we were in urgent situation, because of our religious beliefs, we kind of offloaded a lot of pressure from NHS, taken the body out and relief of the pressure. But there was not consistent message from NHS, different part of NHS. That was the biggest problem. And it's really down to the maybe management system they have, which is supposed not to be the case. I mean, still in NHS, different trusts have got different methodology of serve the bereavement service, and it shouldn't be the case. I mean, for example, releasing the body with filling up 2 forms, 3 forms, with this document, that document, this kind of thing delays things, one. Secondly, confuses your colleague, our colleague and our staff. Again, at that time, how they safeguard the bodies from spreading the infection control. That's one hospital to another hospital is 2 different things. It was. So it was really continuous challenge for us, because when we go and see someone is just handing over the body without any proper covering and dignity, we challenge, and they say, well, that's the way we do. So you need to bring your own thing, own body bags and stuff. But as you know, that at that time everything was scarce.
Yeah,
even with money, we couldn't buy any face mask and gloves and things like that.
Sure. I mean, yes. It's chaos to a degree, and it's uncertainty and the lack of preparedness for a pandemic to a degree, and what one of the things I'm involved in, as you'll know, is the COVID independent inquiry.
Yeah. Is
under the Independent Inquiries Act, is carrying out that investigation right now to understand. From a state perspective, from the things that the state could control, what things could it have done better? And one of the, I'm really excited is perhaps the wrong word, but I'm really encouraged by that, because there are points in this process, particularly with different trusts, particularly with healthcare leadership, authority. What were the things that were missed? Particularly when you think about something like the Equalities Act, which enshrines in law particular considerations for people of faith, different ethnicities, etc., that the state has certain obligations. And so if there are things that have been missed, now is the time through this independent inquiry to investigate, spot that, and then the second step of legislation to correct that is also exciting. Any reflections on that, and kind of how an investigation should proceed from hearing from people and considering views?
Yeah, I think the most challenging was, as a country, we were so ill prepared. Of course, I'm a grassroots person. I'm providing service to the grassroots. But I'm sure there are very intelligent people at the top.
They should have been, some of them are around.
Yeah, they should have been preparing this in a far better and coordinated way. It wasn't the case. And another fear is, of course, the disproportionate number of deaths in ethnic minority, especially Muslim community. And at the news, we are hearing that Bangladeshi origin, black ethnic minority origin, we are dying more, and this kind of thing put us more on more pressure, and psychologically it kind of. We raise question that why and how. And I think this kind of question needs to be answered. We need to know why this has happened. Is it the lifestyle? Is it the living condition or something in our gene which has, triggered this. And why, even now, we don't know this kind of thing. And later on, when the vaccine came, there was fear as well. And, there was quite few deaths funeral we carried out, reaction from vaccine, alleged, of course. A young man, I remember, who died age 27. He was very fit and healthy. As soon he has given the vaccine, within, I think, 48 hours he died. So they are still, carrying out investigation.
Yeah, and it's important we do things like that promptly so that our community, our friends, our family, our brothers and sisters know for sure what's the reality. Stuff like this really weighs heavily on my heart, and that's why I'm really pleased to be working with Professor Leslie Thomas QC, or KC now, leading counsel on inquiries and legal team at Saunders. Yeah, and they've been involved in lots of inquiries. So I think we've got a good legal team behind us to help with this investigation.
Yeah.
Just fast forwarding a little bit now. So very recently, King Charles and the Queen Consort Camilla, I think, Queen now, came to Brick Lane, and you hosted them, or you welcomed them, or you saw them. If I could just get a little kind of theoretical and philosophical now, given some of the challenges you had with authority or the confusing messages, do you still feel like a warm relationship to kind of people in power, or was that slightly different because they're the royals and they're they have some power but not so much?
Well,
how do you feel about that kind of thing?
Well, we have no qualm with anyone. Of course, their visit has highlighted our community, because we always felt that this community has been ignored, and it could be an inferiority complex or something, because we have very little attention from every corner. But definitely with the royal visit, it has highlighted our community more, and we feel that we'll come to know more about why all these things was happening, especially with an investigation. A lot of frontline workers, minority ethnic people like doctors, bus drivers, and they died. They were strong, healthy people, but as soon they got infected and they died. So from the news, we came to know that it's disproportionate. That's the biggest question and biggest I think, maybe outcome we would, request from your investigation team. And I think if we can learn from the investigation outcome and try to improve the strategy, how, if anything repeats again like this, we do not have to suffer.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I just hope that we get there. You mentioned something about the community being ignored. For somewhere in the heart of East London that has been a thriving community for so long, and is such a cultural rich heritage, is that something you felt for a while, or do you think that's been exacerbated, exposed by the pandemic?
I think definitely. Pandemic has highlighted that this community is suffering disproportionately. So there was a lot of hypotheses. Maybe our living condition is not good. Maybe our lifestyle is not good, and all these, questions. Our diet is not good, everything. But for, I think, future, the best outcome would be to come to know exactly what is the issue. If the housing condition is not good, what the government can do to improve it. If our living condition is, health condition is not good, how we can improve this. I think this way, the bereaved family particularly, those who lost, some of them have lost multiple member of the family. I remember there were two brothers. They were part of our mosque, committee members. both brothers die on the same day. Both parents die on the same day. Some family, they suffered really harshly with COVID. And some of us, we have recovered definitely. So I think if we come to know what exactly has happened, what was the core reason, if it is a lifestyle, then we can promote that, you need to change your lifestyle, you need to change your diet. We can learn as a community, how we can improve our future, we can safeguard our future. So that would be the key ask from, this kind of investigation.
I have some of my own hypotheses on this. I'm not quite sure the diet, but because they have compared the conditions and the health of ethnic minority people that have died with other white people that have died with similar weight, lifestyle, etc. I won't want to misquote exactly some of the studies. Like there's a REACH study, a university in Leicester, that's doing a lot of in-depth analysis of this. But I think the investigation, inshallah, will really give us some strong answers, because, right now people are going off of rumour, etc.
I think another point I'd like to raise, if it is possible, I think during the last 2.5 years and 3 years, those families lost their loved ones. There was very limited and very scarce bereavement support. Someone lost their family member, like key family member. A father died, and as you know that we live in a multi-generation family. He was the key earner of this family. So they are suffering financially. We know that there is a safeguarding, national safeguarding, social security and everything. But there is a psychological suffering is still continuing, and there is very few project which is providing this service to these families. A lot of bereaved family, they have lost their loved ones, but no compassionate bereavement support was given. So we kind of received phone call from the family members. They talk to us, but we have got a limited experience of providing this kind of service, But I feel that maybe it is very important to focus on this so that people's, psychological well-being can be safeguarded.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know that there are some national efforts to memorialise that. And so it's part of the inquiry to have a consultation as to what kind of artistic memorial or thing will benefit or will be fitting. But clearly there are different experiences with different communities. So I think it's also an important consideration that, whilst there is a national thing that speaks to the nation and majority white population, ourselves, we may need slightly different,
Because, I know that there's several family, they lost multiple family members, and they are grieving, they are struggling psychologically. Some of them even working is difficult for them, and they need support, tailored support, not just, talking to someone.
And it's important we make those interventions now, because we don't know if and how those feelings, those trauma might be passed on through generations, which is a known fact of generational trauma, etc. Look, we've spoken a lot. I've taken up a lot of your time here in your office. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for coming and, of course, highlighting our service. And I wish you all the best. I hope very good things will come out from the investigation, and we'll learn from it. And government will, try to implement the recommendation from the investigation.
I hope so too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.